North Korea's Minseokri outlet on Monday denounced a recent U.S. decision to blacklist the country for human trafficking as a heinous hostile act. U.S. President Donald Trump last month reapplied a presidential determination that prevents non-humanitarian and non-trade-related assistance to the DPRK for fiscal year 2019 in pursuance of the Section 110(d)(1)(e) of the Trafficking Victims Protection Act of 2000. Funding for participation in educational and cultural exchange programs by North Korean officials and employees is also banned. The Minseokri on Monday denounced Washington's dual-faced behavior, committing to ending hostility and confrontation publicly while atrociously slandering the dignity and regime of their counterpart for dialogue. The U.S. has been in a frenzy of sanctions and pressure scheme by denouncing us for the country trafficking in persons again through the presidential determination, the Minseokri said. This is an unacceptable political provocation against our dignified country and a heinous hostile act which runs against the spirit of the DPRK-US summit held in Singapore. The U.S. has used the blacklisting, renewed every year since the U.S. Trafficking Victims Protection Act in 2002, countries that incur the displeasure of Washington, it added. The human trafficking, which the U.S. clamors about, it is a preposterous fabrication and one never can be imagined in the country where people first principle is thoroughly implemented, the North Korean outlet claimed, calling on the U.S. to escape from obsolete inertia of confrontation and hostility immediately. The Minseokri's response comes less than 2 weeks since the presidential determination was issued, with the DPRK's state-run Korean Central News Agency (KCNA) and ruling party organ Rodong Sinmun yet to issue any statements. Pyongyang typically reacts strongly to international criticism of the country's human rights record. Marking International Human Rights Day on December 10, the Minseokri reported in a separate article that excellent achievements have been made in the field of protecting human rights while vigorously pushing forward the construction of a powerful socialist country. The U.S. and its followers are intent upon the slander against us while frantically making the racket of human rights against the DPRK, Minseokri said. The scheme of imperialists, which arbitrarily infringe upon the autonomy of the country and nation and puts back the advance of history by severely slashing people's human rights, can never be tolerated. The DPRK Today, another state-run outlet, also published an article to mark Human Rights Day, written by a self-described overseas Korean in Europe named Wang Jae-min. The article praised the absolute supremacy of the DPRK's people-first principle and love for the people. Sunday saw the Rodong Sinmun, an organ of the Workers' Party of Korea (WPK), also carry a commentary marking Human Rights Day, slamming the human rights situation of capitalist countries including Australia, the UK, the US, and Japan. The Rodong also claimed that genuine human rights are guaranteed in the DPRK. The eradication of crimes violating human rights which flood capitalist society is just a silly dream, the Rodong said, citing the refugee crisis in the Middle East as one example. Serious human rights issues exist in Western countries, including the U.S. The Rodong said Western countries including the U.S. acted as a human rights judge and label countries which offend them and have progressive character as human rights violators. Providing the recent passage of a UN resolution on North Korea's human rights as an example, the Rodong said the racket of slandering human rights, which distorts the DPRK human rights situation in the international arena, ran to an extreme. The fabrication of human rights resolution by hostile forces against the DPRK is the criminal acts of recklessly violating the international human rights laws which stipulates respect for freedom of thought and cultural diversity in other countries, the Rodong said. November saw the North Korean newspaper claim that the U.S. was using the DPRK human rights issue as a means to extract concessions in ongoing bilateral nuclear negotiations. Edited by Oliver Hotham. Featured image, Rodong Sinmun.